Moving on to a third problematic, and one that I was definitely the victim of from Y2K in our Millennial Moment episode, that I sure hope you're enjoying, is Abercrombie and Fitch, which now is just Abercrombie with a lowercase a, not the emblazoned academic font of AF, that had literally shirtless men stand outside of the store like holding bottles of cologne, and they would be like, hey, like to little girls, right? Like it would be like, I remember so clearly getting roped into the Abercrombie cult. And I could detail you a lot of reasons why I thought it made perfect sense for me to just wear every single piece of clothing from Abercrombie. It hit me really hard, okay? Like I think I was made fun of by other folks that were adults at the time. And they were like, this is wild. And like, I don't think I ever truly could see myself as being a little ridiculous with this fad. When I tell you the chokehold that Abercrombie had on New England millennial children, I don't know what to tell you. I'm sure people in the comment section or in general who are hearing this are like, oh yes, absolutely. The visors, the cargo pants, the midriff bearing spaghetti strap cotton whatevers that you would wear. And it was like the summer uniform. And then it was also like, I remember getting catalogs in the mail, which I still kind of miss. I'm not going to lie. I really enjoyed getting catalogs in the mail. I'm so dated. I feel like a dinosaur. But you'd get the fall Abercrombie catalog, and that's how you knew that like you'd have a whole new year ahead of you to like try to be cool and like try to make memories with your friends that looked like the kids in the pictures. And then meanwhile, years later, a documentary comes out that exposes the predatory nature that those models had to experience from the photographer. Like the main fashion photographer was absolutely canceled and Me Too'd because these young folks, some were just of age, some of them I think were even underage at times. They were sort of encouraged to live this very like wild, sexy lifestyle on the photo shoots themselves. So I remember reading that like they took them to like a little island off the coast of, New England or something. And then they were like, oh yeah, we're just going to do like bonfires and it's not going to get weird at all. And I'm going to just give you, alcohol. And so it's really quite interesting to me that we all kind of are pulling back the curtain, not just on like child actors and celebrity of people that you grew up with, right? But also all of the brands that sort of created toxic work environments for a lot of people. And a lot of them were at-risk folks like younger people and models and all that. So yeah, Abercrombie, I think it really did suffer quite an image hit when that happened. And that was probably because American Apparel was completely canceled, right? Like American Apparel was canceled, I want to say like 4 or 5 years, like maybe even more before Abercrombie's expose documentary came out. And American Apparel was like, we're so edgy, we're so like, I think like raw. It was like disco, clubby, but like dirty at the same time. And they were like, we make our clothes in Los Angeles, and we employ lots of people that need employment and all that stuff. So it was like people felt like it was a very grassroots, sexy brand. But once again, like shortly after, the curtain was definitely pulled back, and we saw just how at risk like that those girls that were modeling the clothes were. And so they were very canceled. I want to say like even more so, like they couldn't even come back from that, right? Well, Abercrombie has come back. I've purchased things from Abercrombie knowing like, okay, at this point with the way that they're doing things, it's very fast fashion. They're trying to compete with a totally different aesthetic. For the longest time, they had their like cargo pants and that type of like academic thick wool sweaters, and that was that. Like they weren't really trying to do anything but be Abercrombie. And it's like now I do see them trying to change for the better. And there's a part of me in my millennial heart that like can't help but hope that Abercrombie like really can survive, right? Like I don't know what it is. Like maybe there's a part of me that doesn't want that remaining property from when I was growing up to like be dethroned and to die, because that makes me feel old. But yeah, I mean, I do think that they are doing what they can, seemingly, at least optically, to be more inclusive, more so than I think Victoria's Secret. And like, I can't, honestly, guys, I don't know how to tell you when I say that every single piece, I am not lying. Every single piece of my clothing at one point had to be Abercrombie. There's the idea that, okay, well, I'm also thrifting. And so I love that there's like the whole norm core of fashion that's sustainable. And the focus from Gen Z is very much like being more mindful of their dollar and what companies they're backing and what companies they're supporting. And I think because they're being so mindful of that and the landfill stuff like that, I get it. But they're also they're stressed out about this for sure. I think like with having two daughters, it's like I don't want them to feel like they need to wear a certain type of clothing to fit in. And I do hope that we can find a way for them not to feel those pressures. I think that Gen Z still wants to flex. I still think that as much as they're like, sustainability matters, they're still like the first to wait in line for like a new shoe or new Nike or something. And they love like an exclusive collection. And so I really don't know if there's a fix. I think we live in like a capitalistic society that has marketing and branding just like geniuses. And so they're thinking probably a couple steps ahead of you. And you kind of are very much just like a cog in that machine. And so we'll see what happens in the future. But I very much want to give love to any brand that is not tone deaf. You know, I think Barbie is doing its best. The fact that they actually put money into Greta Gerwig, you know, I don't know if everyone knows this, but I went to Barnard, which is a women's college, and Greta was in my class. And I just really, I'm sad that I didn't get to know her. Not because like, oh wow, she's like this like successful person, but more or less because she really represents the counterculture to millennial femme like beauty standards. I think after seeing Lady Bird, it was quite clear that she was looking to forge her own path. And so she landed at Barnard at the end of that. And here we have sort of like a love letter to the feminist principles that she learned there at Barnard. And I like took me 12 years to finish school. I kept leaving to come back to LA and, well, I guess be miserable for a little while. And then finally went back at like 26 and then met my husband. And then I went back to LA with him while he finished his master's degree. And at 30, I think it was like 30. No, it wasn't 30. I think it was like 29 or 28 that I finally finished my degree. I promised my dad that I would. You know, I was really proud of the notion of that female empowerment that Barnard kind of, it preached, but it also very much lived that. And I understand that you probably think I'm speaking on tangents right now, but hear me out. Barbie Land was it's like kind of like how Barnard felt, was like a very safe environment with a bunch of women. It's like, hi, I see you, you see me. And then by the time that I was leaving Barnard, we had our first trans person that was like in one of my classes. And, you know, they were very specific about, you know, I'm planning on transitioning and I feel like this environment, you know, because it's a trans male. And he was like, I don't feel like this environment is for me anymore. And so it was fascinating to see how far this sort of like Barbie world of Barnard that Greta has kind of made into a film in some ways was growing and had to create room for inclusivity in order for there to be like a student body. And so it is like there's a lot to unpack with brands. It's not just, okay, well, it's pink, I'm going to buy it. It's not that anymore. And there's a lot of millennial women out there that will hate the idea that times change. But this is what it is. You know, our kids are going to grow up in this world. And I think as parents, we have to be mindful of that and grow with them. because I don't really want to be some like dinosaur. I don't want to like just be thinking of things in a world that doesn't exist anymore. Thanks so much for checking out this clip for the Vulnerable Podcast. For the full episode, go ahead and check out my YouTube channel. That link is in the description. Thanks again.